Welcome to my new video series called Ranger Stronghold Scenario Replay. This is your host, ID Jester. If you've been watching some of my other videos in my Advanced Squad Leader Training series, you remember that I talked about actually doing a video replay of a scenario with the Vassal module, and I've decided to use the Ranger Stronghold scenario as our basis for that series. Before I actually get into playing this series, there's some videos I want to do. First, we're going to have kind of an introductory video to the talk about the scenario card and things you should look at when you're getting ready to play a ASL scenario. Then I want to get into specifics. One video for the German side and talk about the specifics that the German will be using throughout the video series, and also another one for the Americans who will look at their units as well. So hopefully once we get through these videos, we can actually start recording and playing an actual playthrough with the Vassal module and see how that goes. Hopefully we can learn a few things along the way. I think it'll be kind of fun and interesting for people to watch and see how things progress. Please do leave any comments, thoughts, and posts about that. For those of you who are interested, I am going to be continuing my Advanced Squad Leader Training video series as well. Probably be posting some things that come up along the way, and keep doing that series as well. But hopefully you'll be able to turn into both of these video replays as we go along. As I mentioned, we are going to be doing the Ranger Stronghold scenario. I had actually talked in a previous video during my training videos about understanding and reading a scenario card. The scenario card can be freely downloaded from the MMP website at multimanpublishing.com. If you want to put this video on pause, you can download the video card, take a look at it as we talk about it. When you're trying to decide a scenario to play with you and your opponent, you should look for things that you're both rather familiar with. You should look at the victory conditions and understand what the victory conditions are. You should look at not only your units, but your opponent's units as well, and make sure you're familiar with what their capabilities are. Also look at the turn length and see if it's something that can be played in a few hours, or if it's going to take 6 or 7 hours. Then you should also take that into consideration. Look at your map boards and make sure you understand what's going on in the map boards. And we're going to do all that through our introductory to the Ranger Stronghold scenario. Here's the actual card here. There's a lot of information. Some cards will have much more information than this. The reason I chose this scenario is I feel that it's well balanced. It's got some interesting things that both sides can take advantage of. And although there's quite a few units on there's not too many, and there's quite a variety of different kinds of units, so we can explore some of the different rules associated with all the different units. There's quite a variety difference between the sniper numbers, the ELR numbers, and just a lot of interesting things that I think can come into play for this scenario. And since I'll be playing it by myself and having to keep track of not only recording the video, but keeping track of both the American side and the German side and all the different counters, I wanted to start with something that hopefully will be manageable. So we'll give this a try. Well, when you and your playing partner are sitting down, the first thing, like I said, you should do is check out the different units here. Make sure you're comfortable with what is applied for that scenario. You can see here the German forces have a bunch of squads, full squads, 4 leaders, a medium machine gun, and a light machine gun, and they have 2 tanks. And the American player here has some elites, full squads, a half squad, 2 leaders, 2 medium machine guns, and 4 bazookas. So if you're not sure of the rules on bazookas or some of the rules on tanks, you should probably cover that with your partner and make sure you understand. One of the most important things, obviously, for both players to understand and to be fair, you should really talk with each other about the victory conditions and make sure that both players understand how to win the certain scenario. There's nothing worse than getting several turns into a scenario and then having your partner doing something that you weren't sure of why he was doing, and then you find out that you were unsure of the victory conditions, and you've basically wasted a lot of time trying to do something you shouldn't have been doing. So make sure you sit down with your playing partner, talk over the victory conditions, and make sure you both understand what that means. If there's any discrepancy, you try to get some clarification on that before you guys start, so that both players can be happy. And after all, this is a game, and we should try to encourage one another to play ASL, get new players in the game, and by doing that we can be friendly and still enjoying our time with one another, and still have a competitive nature as well. Second thing you should do is make sure you actually have all the units, make sure you have all the counters available, make sure you have the map board. Again, you should look at the turn record chart to see how many turns it's going to be. If it's 4, 5, or 6 turns, you can probably play that in a couple hours, depending on how many different counters there are. If you're looking at a 7, 8, 9, 10 turn scenario, depending on your counter density, it could take you quite a while. So think about your turn length when you're looking at how much time it's going to take. The other thing you should look at is who's going to set up and move first. In this case, you see under the turn record chart usually lists who's going to set up first and who's going to move first. In this case, the German is going to set up first, and it's also going to move first. That can be important based on who's going to be setting up, where the units are going to be, and how concealment's going to work between the different sides playing the scenario. If one side starts off board and comes on during the game on board, so should look at who's going to be starting on the board, and you can see under each different side where they're going to be starting. Some of the other things to keep in mind is look for your ELR number. If you're not sure what ELR is, I did a tutorial video on, or training video I should say, on the ELR and what that means. So if you're not sure, look that one up and watch it. The other thing you should keep in mind is your sniper numbers. Sniper numbers for both sides might be different, so don't just assume that if your partner has a sniper number 2, that you would have a sniper number 2. So look at what your sniper number is, and also with your ELR probably will be different. They could be the same, but more than likely they'll be different. Also, down here in the bottom left hand side, you'll see any special rules. Make sure you go through those with not only for yourself but with your partner, and make sure that you both understand what all the special rules mean. One of the reasons I chose this scenario is because there is no special rules that I need to have to deal with during this video replay. Lastly, one of the things you should look at is the different maps. Look at the map boards. In this case, you see we're playing with board number 2, and you notice the orientation of it. I will advise you now that what I've done is, since it's only one map board, in my Vassal controls I actually rotated the map board so it's face up for me. In this case, it'll be easier for everybody to see the numbers instead of them being upside down. With one map board, it's just a matter of me sitting on one side and my partner sitting on the other side, so it doesn't really matter the orientation of the map board. When you're looking at the map, what you should do is look around, see if you're familiar with all the different terrain types that are located on the map board. I'm actually going to be turning off the counters here so we can actually see the map board here. You should try to make sure you're familiar with all the different terrain types. Again, one of the reasons I chose this scenario is the map board 2 doesn't have too many unique and different terrain types. We have some wood hexes, C1, C2, C3, C4. We have some wood buildings, D1, D4, etc. We have some grain hexes, just a few of them on the map board scattered around, such as E1. We do have some walls, such as the E4, E5 hex side, the E5, F4 hex side. There are some hedges scattered around here somewhere. Where are they? Here's one here between U1 and V1. Some hedges there. We do have some cell hole hexes here. Cell hole hexes. We have some cliff sides, which are denoted by the rather dark brownish black colorization of the hex side there. We do have multiple different levels in this scenario. There's a level 1, which is the green. I'm sorry, there's a level 0, which is the green. I'm getting ahead of myself, sorry. Level 0 is green, level 1 is the light brown, level 2 is the medium brown, and level 3 is the dark brown. So we have a 0, 1, a 2, and a 3. So you should be familiar with how blind hexes are created and the different heights of how they come into play. Obviously, if you're going to play a scenario that has a map board with multiple different levels on it. There's several road hexes here scattered throughout the map. Let's see if there's any other kind of terrain that's nope, I think that's pretty much all of it. I'll go ahead and bring the counters back on. You should note when you're looking at your scenario card, it should tell you where each of the different sides are going to set up. In this case, the German player is going to set up between W and FF. So if you look at our wonderful Vassal module here, I've actually put some counters adjacent to the W hex sides, and so basically the German player can set up anywhere to the including the row that I marked, so W through FF. So German player is going to be starting up on this half of the map board, and you'll notice the same thing here for the American side, which is going to set up between hex rows B and U. So B and U, if we look at our map board again, I've positioned some counters here on the side of the map board. So anywhere from U all the way over to B, so the Americans are going to set up over here. On the left hand side, I've gotten all the different counters out on the map. At this point, I haven't really set anything up. I just got them on the map board. We're going to talk about each side's different counters and what they have for this scenario in another video. If we look at our scenario card, again, we should recognize who's going to be setting up first and who's going to be moving first. So the Germans are going to set up first in this scenario. So the process for setup is at this point the German player is going to take all his counters, set them up on the board, rearrange them, get them all positioned out of eyesight of the American player, and then they're going to switch roles. The German player will leave. The American player will then sit down, put his counters on the board, and then we will check for concealment afterwards. And then once we're done with concealment, then we can start actually playing the scenario. In this case, this scenario has some very specific victory conditions. In this case, the German player wins at game end if there are no unbroken American units in hexes numbered less than or equal to 5 on or between hex rows H through P. On or between hex rows H and P, anything numbered less than or equal to 5. So again, I've marked on our vassal module here with some counters including hex rows H through P, less than or equal to 5. So basically, the American player has to have someone in these 50 hexes, or 50 hexes. Half hexes do count. So in this case, the American player has to have one of their units survive the German onslaught and be unbroken inside of this box area at this scenario, and they win. If they are not able to, then the German player wins. So in this case, it's very easy to determine what the victory conditions are. American needs to have an unbroken unit inside this 50 box hex at the end of the scenario. And again, since the Germans are going to set up and move first, that means the Americans will set up and move last. And we'll talk about what that can mean when we talk about the different sides here. There is some balancing usually on the scenario card. If one player feels the scenario might be imbalanced, or if you have players of unequal playing ability, to kind of balance things out, I can give you some guidelines on how to best do that. In this case, we have a 6-turn scenario. At the end of the 6th turn, the American has someone inside of this area at the end of turn 6. It's unbroken. They will be the winners of the scenario. It should be noted, and this is one of the things you should talk with your partner, in that it doesn't specifically say, but if the American player during his turn is able to move someone back into the area, it does not mention that the Americans must secure this area the whole scenario. All it says is that they have to have someone there at the end of the scenario. So if they were to vacate that whole area, and then on the last turn they were able to bring someone in there, they can still win the scenario. So another thing to make this scenario fun and interesting, because it's never going to be over until the very last turn. Because the American can always try to get somebody back into his setup location, or his victory location. Unfortunately, this can make this scenario kind of gamey, in that it's not going to be based upon real life situations and scenarios. In this case, if we had this unit over here and we had, a whole bunch of German units just stacked in here, in real life there's no way this guy would come charging forward just to try and take over this hex spot, knowing that he's going to get probably shot to ribbons by these massive amounts of German units. So it can make this scenario kind of gamey, in that the outcome might be determined more along the lines of the scenario goal as opposed to what would normally happen in a normal situation. But we will see how things play out. Hopefully this scenario will be a learning experience for those of you out there that are looking to get into the Advanced Squad Leader system. I'm going to be running this different series myself. I will be using the Vassal module. I will try to play to the best of each side's capabilities during their turn. But it should be noted, I will probably do some things to inspire some rules and talk about some things that maybe isn't the best move, but it might be advantageous to learn some of the basics of how things are operated in the Advanced Squad Leader rules. And hopefully some of these situations will come up so we can try them out and show everybody how an actual game of ASL might be played. So this was going to be the short introductory video just talking about Ranger Stronghold, talking about what you should do when you're looking to set up a scenario. Make sure both players understand the victory conditions, check the length, make sure you're familiar with all the different units and their capabilities, check out your special rules, make sure you understand what the special rules do, what they are, make sure you're familiar with all the terrain on the map board you're going to be playing with, make sure there's if there's any questions ahead of time. The last thing you want to do is get in the middle of a scenario and have to stop and debate with your opponent about certain aspects. Best thing to do is before anybody sets up anything on the map board, you both look it over and compare notes and make sure that there isn't any question as to if something is in place or out of place or looks unusual. Make sure that you and your partner talk it over and make sure you come up with an agreement. Is this going to be a hex side I can bypass or not? Is this something that looks like it's is this going to be covered terrain? Is this not going to be covered terrain? Whatever the case may be, make sure you take a quick couple minutes just to look over the scenario map board and make sure there's no different terrain types, and if there's any questions about the different terrain, it's best to sit down with your partner and go over that so that both players can enjoy and have fun playing the scenario. Whether you win or lose, the important thing is you crush your enemy. You have fun. So that's the important thing, is have fun and keep playing and enjoy your time. And if it just turns into a big argument and a big fight, then nobody's going to have fun, and that's not what we want. So hopefully this introductory video will be able to cover some things so that when people actually watch the replay, or if you're getting into Advanced Squad Leader system, you can understand what you should be looking at when you're looking at a scenario card, some of the important aspects of it, and be sure to tune in for the German and the American overviews, because we're going to talk about each of the different sides individually with their own introductory video, and hopefully you'll be able to watch this replay and follow along and make any comments or posts about it, and let me know if you like it, and if it goes well and it's well received and people seem interested, then maybe we'll try another video after this one, after this series gets complete. So appreciate you watching this, and hopefully not too much longer we'll actually get started, but look forward to talking about the different German units, and we'll talk about another video, we'll talk about the American units, And during during these videos, we're actually going to talk about each of the different sides and their advantages and disadvantages throughout the scenario, and things you should think about when you're setting up your units, things you should look at from the scenario, and things you should look at for how you should play out the scenario and use your units to the best of their abilities. So again, appreciate you watching the video, and look forward to starting the Ranger Stronghold soon. Until then, this is ID Jester, signing off.